Today, a special task awaits us on the farm. An old tractor, which stood in the corner of the yard for many years, is now stuck in a huge stone and can't be moved. Ordinary machines just won't do the job. But luckily, we have something special. A small excavator with a hydraulic breaker is on the way. Time to free the tractor and clean up the farm. begun. The sun was slowly rising over the farm, and the sky was glowing with the warm colors of morning. The farmer stepped out of his house and headed straight for the barn without hesitation. He knew it was an important day.
Today is the perfect day for harvesting,
He said, walking toward the garage. On the way, he passed his cows, already standing by the fence, curiously watching him. One of them let out a loud moo, as if to say, "Good luck." The farmer smiled to himself. When he reached the barn, he swung open the large wooden doors. In the center, ready for work, stood his green tractor. It gleamed in the morning light, shining through the open doors, almost as if it knew it was about to get to work. He drove up to the header mounted on the trailer. He attached it carefully and precisely. Everything had to be ready for work in the field. Right nearby, in the shade of the barn, stood the combine harvester. Big and ready for action, it was just waiting for the header to be transported. The tractor with the trailer set off first, and the combine slowly followed behind. Together, they left the farm and headed toward the wheat field, which shimmered golden all the way to the horizon. On a quiet farm, the tractor, like every day, set off on its rounds. While driving along the fence, it noticed something disturbing. Several boards in the fence were broken, and in one place a large hole had formed. The tractor knew that it had to act immediately. The farmer who was working with the tractor decided that the fence repair could not wait. Seeing the huge amount of work involved in repairing the fence, he decided that two tractors, one red, the other green, would have to face the task together. Both had their specific roles. One of them was to attach a cyclop loader, and the other a large trailer to bring the wood needed for the repair. Both tractors, ready for action, set off from the yard towards the forest, driving evenly one behind the other. The green tractor with the cyclop loader attached, the red tractor pulling a large trailer. Cooperation was key. Each tractor had its own task, which had to be carried out precisely. After reaching the place in the forest, both tractors started working. The green tractor with the cyclop loader immediately started lifting huge logs of wood that were waiting to be loaded. The trunks were huge, but Cyclop easily managed to load them. Once the logs were loaded onto the trailer, the red tractor headed for the sawmill. The road was straight, and the tractor rode calmly, pulling a heavy load. Once at the sawmill, the wood was to be processed into the necessary boards to repair the fence. The tractor knew that its task was important, because without these boards it would be impossible to secure the farm from intruders. Then the logs were put on a conveyor belt, where specialist sawmill machines began processing them. Powerful saws cut the wood precisely, and then smoothing machines gave the boards the right shape and smoothness. The process was quick and precise. It was obvious that the sawmill was well prepared for such tasks. The tractor was ready to be loaded. The boards quickly found their place on the trailer, and the tractor happily headed back to the farm, ready to finish repairing the fence. grass on the farm had been growing like crazy. After a few days of rain and sunshine, the green field looked beautiful, but it was already way too tall. The farmer looked at the calendar and said,
Today is the perfect day for mowing.
For this task, the perfect match was the helper in the red tractor, ready and reliable. Along with him came a brand new piece of equipment, a rotary mower, sharp and powerful, ideal for tall, thick grass. The red tractor slowly entered the field, its engine humming steadily. The rotary mower spun into action, cutting clean paths through the greenery with ease. Together, the machine and its driver worked row by row, transforming the wild meadow into a tidy field.
Red, green, pink, blue, orange, black.
Welcome to my animated Bazylland farm full of colorful tractors and farm vehicles. Today we will mow wheat for grain. For this we will need a combine, and also a tractor with a trailer to transport freshly cut meat. Here we go. There are lots of tractors and various agricultural machines there. And these are my dairy cows. Each of them has a name. First from the left is Emma. Then it's Olivia, Hannah, Sophia, Charlotte, Elizabeth, Isabella, and the last one is Amelia. It looks like they are very hungry and it's time to feed. What do you think cows like to eat? Their diet consists mainly of grasses and other green plants such as alfalfa and clover, but also silage and forage. All right, since we know what cows eat, we will need a tractor and a feed wagon. Great! We have a tractor, now a feed wagon. The feed wagon is a machine that allows you to quickly and effectively prepare animal feed and dose it appropriately. The feed wagon speeds up feeding and preparing food, especially for cows. The last machine will allow us to collect silage from the field. Great! Silage collected. Now we will need straw. Our farm is large and sometimes we use a yellow backhoe loader to transport straw. It has forks for transporting pallets, but they are also great for transporting straw bales. Straw loaded. The last ingredient of our mixture will be grain feed and vitamins. The mixture is ready. The tractor and feed wagon did great. We can feed our cows now. Do you remember their names?